I know you had mentioned that you you've had those conversations before to help people come to think about new possibilities or break certain patterns of thinking to think bigger. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your approach to that and like how do you help people to think differently or disrupt some of those patterns of thinking?
Yeah, this is a good conversation. This comes up a lot in the innovation discussion. Like, how do you help teams become more innovative? My brother, my twin brother, is a product leader and always has been. And he and I used to laugh that I would complain about the technical challenges that we're trying to build, and then he would complain about the hard part of the product role. And frankly, I feel like the product role is actually harder because the point of the product role is that you have to decide what to do, right? It's not how to do it. Like once you've decided what to do, and what I mean by that is there's all kinds of technical advances that are coming out, and you'll have hack days that we have. We have wonderful new startups that come talk to us. We have some great scientists that help build our graph database. And the problem is like, how do I apply this technology to a feature and then say, yes, that's what we're going to go after? And so it's, I feel like my role as not only the engineering leader is, but also, a very heavy influence on the product side is, you show the art of the possible and then you decide to go do it. Right. And I don't want to say ideas are, I think the cliche is like, there's a million ideas out there. The question is like, which idea do you go after? And so I'm a bias for action person. So I want somebody to say, hey, we've got this great new feature, this capability, and then let's go ship it. Let's actually get it out there. Because you can get products that are like 80% of the way and you can play around with it. But until it's actually in production, you don't know whether it's going to be useful or not. So I push my teams to like actually get it out there. And that's, the startup way is, to hack it into their product and see if it works. So I really am trying to get ideas to action. And that's because I think there's a plethora of ideas out there. There's not a lot of people out there who can turn that idea into something useful.
And that's very fascinating. Can you share us a little bit more on that example process? That is that idea originated from the engineering team, and then you just go ahead and you run an experiment because you mentioned there's a really solid experimentation framework to have. So, or does the idea come from the product?
Yeah, luckily Pinterest was built from the ground up with experimentation built in, like many of the digital only companies. In my previous life at Walmart, you're sort of injecting, experimentation platforms into platforms that weren't originally built for experimentation, and so it's much harder to do a test and learn process on that. So number one, Pinterest is lucky because we're largely digital, but Walmart, for example, did lots of physical experiments in stores where they'd rip out a bunch of registers and put some new ones in to see what they look like. And, really trying to build a physical iteration process that matched the digital. And that included training and that sort of thing. But again, it's like picking a few of them and like actually putting some meat behind it and seeing whether it's going to work. There's a million hack day ideas that are sitting in the idea lab kind of list somewhere that have never been realized. And it's really about, having the courage to go try them out.
Yeah, I kind of had I guess a question about all of the different ideas. Like, what is there like a certain framework or filter for how you and the team sort of work through like what's the go no go or the experiment that you're taking a bet on? Like, what's that decision making process like?
Yeah, good question. We sort of matured this last year. A guy on our team named Sartek took it upon himself to build essentially a feature. There's a few companies out there that do these sort of idea labs, startup hack day idea labs, where you put in a series of ideas and the technology behind it, and then the company will vote it up and down, and the top three that the top 10 get sort of either funded or get prototyping dollars, and we sort of matured that this time, and we've got it's fun. We have about 10 projects that are in the loop. Then several of them are internal productivity things versus things that pinners will see. But that's a well-known process, and usually it's done via like a Shark Tank or whatever. I was just talking to a good friend of mine they run like a Shark Tank kind of process, and half the fun of that is just getting in front of the product teams to get your product in front of them with some feedback. So I highly encourage, if you don't have a mature sort of hack day process for that your company should put that in. And make it a fun event, and also make sure that you fund call it a half a dozen of those projects. Otherwise, people will lose faith that they're just doing it for no real reason, right? And it's amazing how many, and then celebrate the ones that go live. So I know a lot of companies that use ROI as well, and ROIs are sometimes, ROIs are gameable. That's all I'll say. So pick the ones that people have their gut feeling on, and then launch them in production, right?